This cottage that we're seeing here is Marshall's. Next door to Marshall's is MacDougall's that Uncle Frank tells us was originally Ginn's. The Ginn's ran a Sunday school for children along the Grove. These next two would belong to the Barrington family, and this Barrington cottage is behind.
The cottage we're looking at now, presently owned by Arringtons, was for sale in the fall of 1922, and the Kinsinger family looked at it as a possible purchase. We were then, of course, living just a few doors down in Mellish's. However, we decided against it. The cottage has been changed since quite a bit, but the main structure is still there.
Did it used to have a open? So was the second story open?
Second story up there.
So the second story was all open. Did it have a beehive in the peak then too?
So,
tell us about the old Wallace's cottage.
this cottage, I think, was put together by Wallace, who was an engineer. The main center section was moved from the opposite side of the highway, or the Grove Road, and it had been a change house for people from the village to come in and swim on this real sandy beach. Now, if we can find it, we can find the foundation on this other side.
So we go down, if you want Stuart and me maybe to go down in the bush?
Yeah, we're down at this, we can find the foundation. But I can't find anything.
So here we are down below the Grove, and it looks like an old well or an old cistern. Mm-hmm. You can see the stones deep in there, if I can zoom in. Surrounded by poison ivy. Yeah, ah, lovely.
We're renting a series. So, wow.
Okay, just zoom in past the veranda, and right up in that area there was a swampy, big puddles or little ponds in the rocks, and we used to catch, Stuart and I and the other kids along here used to catch frogs up there. Right. And it didn't matter when you went, you were always sure to catch a frog. You could always get some frogs. Always a frog. And it's almost like the Muskoka in there with the big rocks, smooth rocks. More rugged terrain than down our end. Okay, go ahead.
We're now looking at the small road that runs out to the point. Various names, recently called Gregory's Point, prior to that, Hughes's Point. Originally, it was an island, and Sir Sam Hughes, being a minister in Ottawa, I guess he could arrange that where the dredging dumped whatever they were digging up, and it so happened that they dumped it right between the island and the mainland to make his point. So for many years it was Hughes' Point.
There's two cottages on there today. Yep. Did Hughes put up two cottages?
I don't.
Or did that come after?
I don't know that. It could be that I had said that was an island. It certainly was an island when the lake level was raised 8 feet. It could have been attached to the mainland before they raised the lake level. I don't know.
What lake level raising are you referring to?
Cameron Lake.
When they put the dams in and
when they put the dam logging? In, yeah, the dam was about 8 feet tall.
It would have been 8 feet lower than what it was.
That's right.
All right.
You used to see an awful lot of stumps all along the shoreline out in the water, but they've all lost
Okay.
The small Hillcrest cottage,
Can't quite see it through there, but carry on.
yeah, it was owned by relatives of Burnell, part of the Burnell family. They have been up here for a long, long time. Next door, which is now Lapatina's, had an original cottage and was purchased, torn down, a new one constructed, almost completed, and went up in smoke. So this is the third cottage on the premises. Next here, we can hardly see it. We'll move ahead a little bit.
Okay.
This cottage was built and owned by Miss Tapscott, a sister of Tapscott's family who lived a little further down.
To be Sister Carl? Or?
Well, she was an aunt of Carl's.
Okay. And now the Mitchells have it. Okay.
There were two brothers, Grattan brothers, each had a cottage in the grove. This was one of them. And there was the main cottage, and then when the family started to expand, they built a small cottage up behind. Charlie Phillips was the son-in-law, and he was a Latin and Greek teacher at one of the Toronto schools, UTS. And so both this cottage was named in Greek and in Latin, in Greek, Manta Pison. And beyond that again, there was another little small one, which is subsequently moved over to the right. It was called Tauta Pison.
What do they mean?
Tauta Pison, Panta.
Yeah, Tauta Pison.
Santa Pison was for the family, and Tauta was for the individual.
House for one and house for all. Oh, there you go. And we'll have to get a view of the house from the cottage from the road, but...
And this behind us used to be, they called it a tennis court, but it never was. They played croquet up there.
Right up here. Beautiful. There's the front of the cottage. That's what we're more used to seeing. And where are we going now?
Going to Funnels, next door.
Going down the funnels.
Yeah, go along.
Okay.
This cottage, presently owned by Funnels, was originally owned by the Hill family. And it went through two generations. And the next generation, one boy and three girls, and none of them were interested, so he sold it.
The connection between the Hills and the Smiths.
A connection between the Hills and the Smiths. Mrs. Hill was a sister of Mr.
Archie.
Archie, yeah.
Yes.
Smith.
Which is the cottage we just looked at. Which is right back over here. Okay.
In behind the cottage you're looking at now, which is fairly recent, and it's not that white building up behind. There were two very tiny cottages up there for years and years, real old, owned by the farm and rented by the farm. Behind this red pump house on my right is the well, spring, in which the cottages down here for years got their drinking water. Up to about this point in the grove, roughly coincides with the advent of the automobile. Up to here, people came up and they intended to stay for the summer, by train, trunks, all their stuff for the year.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any car to go shopping, so the dealers, merchants in town, they sent out people to take orders and would deliver them the next day or that afternoon, whatever. This was also the end of the first subdivision. Where we've come through now, we've come on the main road, which is not called the Grove. It's got two other names. And in behind is all surveyed into streets and avenues, which were never built on. To protect the frontage, the people all bought several behind lots.
Mm-hmm.
There's many of the streets between here and the highway.
I'm going to go get a look at that little pump. Okay, and there's a little pump. Right there.